Okay, so here we go. I think we are ready to start. Is it looking okay?
It looks great. And I think Katherine, Jennifer, and Loretta, I say stay visible throughout the whole thing. I think we thought maybe we'd have you go off camera when you're not speaking, but I think everybody should see your reactions to all this information too. And it will make Tesha and I feel less alone to have some company while we're presenting. So just go ahead and mute yourselves until it's time to talk, please, and thank you. Okay, happy Thursday evening, right? It's Thursday. Welcome to our 3-day fundraising webinar. We are super excited to be able to present to you tonight and to share some fabulous stories of fundraising that participants are currently doing right now. Tesha, if you want to advance me to the next slide. So, you know, obviously this is a special time we're in. If you've been to our social hours or any of the virtual kickoffs or anything we've been doing, the walks, we keep talking about how this is a special time. And we wanted to make sure that we were providing some relevant fundraising information to all of you during this special time. And we really felt like this wasn't a time for fundraising professionals to talk at you about what you should do to fundraise, and that really the best way that we can help all of you is to make sure that you heard from some of your fellow participants who are actively fundraising right now and seeing success with a variety of different fundraising tactics. So while there are tried and true fundraising tactics that you should do and strategies like a Facebook fundraiser, we wanted to kind of highlight 4 different ways in which our participants are currently fundraising. So today is how to fundraise during a global pandemic with a little help from your friends. So everybody is muted for today's webinar. If you have any questions, you can send them in throughout the presentation. There's a chat down at the bottom, so you can utilize that feature if you do have any questions. Tesha's going to be driving the presentation, and I'm going to be doing a lot of the talking, so we won't be looking at that until the end of the presentation. So if you have a question like right now, just know that it won't get answered until we start reviewing those later. We will have time after to answer questions, so that's our plan. Anything that does not get answered, we will make sure that we take note of and follow up with individuals if there are questions. And then this webinar will be posted and available online within the next couple of days. So that is our housekeeping.
Molly, and just a note, Sue has joined us. Sue, if you would like to come on, if you'd like to come on camera, we'd love to see you. You can just mute yourself until we get to your section, but it'd be nice to see your face.
Exactly. Thank you, Sue. So Tesha and I will do some introductions, and then we will turn it over to the real stars of today's webinar. And those are your fellow participants who will be sharing their firsthand accounts of how they've been fundraising since we made the announcement that the events were going to be taking place in 2021. Then we will use it as an opportunity to share some fundraising reminders. Tesha is gonna jump off of information that Loretta will be sharing, spoiler alert, and we'll be going into some details about matching gifts. And then she will also share just general fundraising tools, and then we'll open it up for questions. So next up, I would like to address the elephant in the room, which is that right now there is a global pandemic going on, if you did not know, and that makes fundraising a little challenging. So obviously things are totally weird, and we really just want to address that. We get that. We understand that not everybody is comfortable fundraising right now, and our goal today is really to help you see from your fellow participants that it is possible to fundraise during a pandemic. I speak for everyone who works on the 3-day project and at Susan G. Komen when I say that we have been so inspired by the fundraising that is happening right now and the commitment that everybody has to this event. It has been so heartwarming to see the ways in which everybody has continued to support the event. We've heard from so many people who are actively fundraising this year and are also planning on fundraising next year. And it leaves me a little bit at a loss for words, and if you know me, that's not easy to do, but it's just been a beautiful display of how this community has continued to shine and come together, and we just want to address that. We get that people have been impacted by this, whether they've been sick, whether they have lost their jobs. So we get that it's not an ideal climate, but again, our goal here is to help you see from your fellow participants that it is still possible to continue to fundraise. And I think we saw a couple months into the pandemic that people really do have room in their head and their heart for dealing with kind of the immediate needs of the global pandemic and how that's impacted their lives personally, and fundraising for the causes that mean most to them. So just wanted to address that. Next, I'm going to be, continuing to go down this train of hosting today's webinar with the help of Tasha and our 4 participants. So I've been involved with the 3-Day 4, as I like to say, about 1 million years. But I actually started because my mom is a breast cancer survivor. My sister saw an ad for the very first New York 3-Day while my mom was in treatment for breast cancer. She is a breast cancer survivor who is still with us, and I'm very, very grateful for that. And I saw my sister participate in the first New York 3-Day, and I said, I would like to do that. So I volunteered the next year, and then I walked in 2001, and then I joined staff in 2002. I participated 2 other times in the 3-Day since then, but I also transitioned to fundraising for rare cancer research because my father passed away at the age of 55 from esophageal cancer. And over the course of the past 8 years, I've raised more than $225,000 for rare cancer research. And I always like to point out that my average donation size is only about $100. My approach is to just ask like every single person I know, and sometimes even people I don't know. So well, I've done some other fundraising webinars talking about my fundraising strategy of raising a lot of money in a short period of time, but I also like to make sure that it's attainable. And I know when people see numbers like this, it's like, I couldn't do that. But Loretta's on here, and she has also raised a crazy amount of money. So it's possible doing a little bit or a lot over a period of time to kind of see something like that. But I'm so fortunate to be here. I'm so grateful to be part of this community and to be walking alongside you guys, literally and figuratively through this webinar. So.
Well, then I will introduce myself for anybody who has not met me. I'm Tasha. I've started my first 3-Day I did in 2008. I was in the middle of losing my aunt from breast cancer when my best friend saw an ad on TV, and she called me and said, there's this walk. I think we should maybe do this. Should we do this? And I said, sure, let's do it. And the first time I ever walked 5 miles, I don't know if I ever told you this story, Molly. First time I ever walked 5 miles, I got in my car and I called her and I was like, oh, we have lost our mind. I used a lot of really adult words. And I was like, we have lost our mind. Like, I don't know what we're doing. And she basically said, get out of your car, get back out there and keep going. We're not stopping this. So that was my first event. I keep coming back. I have walked 8 times. Most recently, I walked in 2019 in Twin Cities. And I have also been a 5-time crew member. So I've done both sides of that. And I joined the 3-Day staff in 2016. As I said, I participate because I lost my aunt. She was 50 years old. Her girls were 7 and 12. They have both participated with me, one as a 2-time walker and one as a 2-time youth corps member. So it's a family thing for us. My husband does route safety. My mom's the best walker stalker ever. We're a 3-Day family and we enjoy it. But I feel, as Molly does, so grateful to be part of the staff and so grateful to share the things that I've learned over these years with everybody else, because as you know, we just keep learning from each other, which is one of the most critical parts about this. So it's so exciting. And we have 4 awesome participants with us tonight. Are we just going to go right into them, or?
Yeah, we're just going to go right into it. So again, our goal here is for you to hear directly from your fellow participants who are having success fundraising right now. So we are going to turn it over to Katherine first.
Absolutely. Katherine, you can come off mute. There you are.
Right. Hi. I'm Katherine Dalla. I'm just outside of Chicago. Yeah, I started in 2011. This is my 4th. I think it's my 4th. It's 3rd, 4th. I honestly have lost track. I've done the Comans and the Avon walks. I started because my aunt as well was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. Then directly after that diagnosis, there was another aunt, and she had a lumpectomy, and then there was another aunt And it just kind of started rolling and rolling and rolling. And we said, well, enough. We have to do something. And I'm an action taker. I feel like a hammer, like everything is a nail. And if I'm a hammer, I just need to fix it. And the way I could fix it was to walk just obscene amounts of miles all the time. And just kind of say, you know what, my feet hurt, but not nearly as bad as like losing feeling in your feet from radiation and chemo and things like that. We are fortunate that every one of the aunts that was affected is still with us, which is wonderful. Yes, so I love doing the walks. They've been amazing. The Chicago route it's a phenomenal route. It's absolutely fantastic. So yeah, I'm looking at this lifetime fundraising total because I did not math it out prior to doing this, which I probably should have done. But pandemic, and I own a small business, and I'm like an ostrich all the time. So I didn't get a chance to total that up. So thanks for mathing. And now I've got a goal to really get up to 10,000 soon, hopefully by the 2021 walk, when we're all rescheduled for early October of next year. So am I talking about what I did? Yeah. All right, sweet. So this year on walk weekend, designed my own 3-day. I just decided that if, this was one thing 2020 was not going to take away. I mean, it's taken like everything, and it was not going to take the walk, and it was not going to take my miles, and it was not going to take my fundraising. So got this idea in August to start kind of constructing how I was going to do my own 3-day walk. So the first step was to figure out how to do this safely without aid stations. I mean, you get very pampered. I mean, every 1.5 to 2 miles, you're like, oh, a granola bar, wonderful. But that's not, that's just like not out on the street. So the first part was, figure out how to do this and do it safely. So decided to make my garage the aid station for the walk and for walk weekend. And then it was identify 4 different 5-mile loops, all starting and finishing at the garage aid station. And from there, it was like, all right, well, I don't want to do this by myself. So, and I also need to knock out this fundraising because it needs to happen. So decided to kind of put out there that you could buy a lap with me. And you had to donate $50 per lap. So or we were calling them loops. So per loop, you had to donate $50. Didn't care how many loops you wanted to do. If you wanted to take all of them, cool. If you wanted to take one of them, cool, whatever. So I started an event page on Facebook, and in the event page invited the world, and then kind of said, all right, like these are the start times. This is the 15-minute break. Here's the next time. Here's the 15-minute break. Who wants to do the things? And I got all of the loops signed up for. So there's 12 loops of 5, and it worked beautifully. We did a designated hashtag for the event. We were that feed was pink all weekend. From September 11th through the end of the 13th, there was nothing that wasn't pink on my screen, like in faces. This is what we're doing. Yes, my feet hurt. Day 2 was completely rainy. So day 1 was awesome. Every loop was great. Everybody was in great spirits. Day 2 was a soggy mess here. It was just like, and I think everybody that's ever done a walk, when you get that like whoosh, when you're stepping down and like all the water comes out of your shoe, like, ugh. Right. So that
I will say that made us feel a little bit better from an event execution standpoint, since we couldn't be in Chicago.
Yeah. That was
yeah, we heard it wasn't great. Yeah.
No, you know what though? Hot pink ponchos, and we were good. There were all the supplies were there. So yeah, it was really selling loops and getting folks to do that. And then that kind of spread as people were like, oh, I just did this thing with my friend, somebody else throw in. My parents are in Florida. They're kind of COVID trapped where they are right now. So they both took a virtual loop, and, I have another aunt that took another virtual loop, and like people were just kind of jumping in and saying, all right, well, I can't do it with you, but I'll do 5 miles wherever I am, and I'll continue to donate. and we just we let it snowball over social media. And I think that was a huge, I think it was a huge piece of it, but I also think just the idea of getting out and doing a thing where you could be outside and you could be safely, I mean, we distanced, and you could do something that was a distraction from all of the things going on.
Exactly.
Or all of the things that are not going on, either one. So yeah, it was phenomenal. It was great. It was just, everybody get together and let's do this thing and let's knock it out real fast. And in 2.5 days, the goal was done, and I was like bewildered. So yeah, I mean, that was my thing, was just designing your own walk.
And I'm sorry, so what was the total that you raised?
I think I got just over my, whatever the goal is, 2,300.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, we just hit that, but we did it real fast, which I think was the nice part. I mean, sometimes it takes longer, and it's hard, especially, I mean, we were saying, in a pandemic situation where you've got job loss and you've got different insecurities across multiple playing fields. It's hard to say, all right, you know what, guys, throw some money at a cause that you either may or may not be personally connected to, but charitable giving is a way to get beyond yourself and to get something bigger than yourself. And we're all so like self-focused as to how this is affecting our world, that it was super important for me to make sure that everybody, I mean, at least for, 72 hours, was like, no, the world, it's bigger than this pandemic. It's bigger than the politics. It's bigger than all the things happening right now. And it's something that will make you feel like a halfway decent human again.
Yeah.
So it was cool.
That's amazing. I think I'm going to start charging people who walk with me. It's a good idea.
I mean, it was, and everybody was super happy to do it. The more I think about it, the next time I do it, they are going to pay more than $50.
I will say I commend you for having it start at $50, because I think that that's a really good thing for people to consider. Like, we tend to go lower, right? So yeah. I think it's great that you did $50 as the lowest point. So Katherine, thank you so much for sharing that. Did you also like any press for that or anything?
I mean, does my mom sharing every post count?
Yeah, totally. Absolutely.
Then yes.
Yeah. Well, if you haven't already, I'd love it if you could share this on the Chicago Facebook group for the 3-day.
Sure.
Yeah, that would be great if you could share photos and what you did. Those pages are for not for fundraising solicitation, but it is great for kind of inspiring participants and getting the conversation going. And I'd love for more people to be able to hear your story. So thank you, Katherine, for sharing that. And I, for one, can't wait to see you in Chicago next year.
I'm so excited. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Katherine. Next up is going to be Loretta. Loretta, as you can see on this slide, Loretta is the highest individual fundraiser in 3-day history. She has personally raised over $471,600, and it's a little bit more than that, just rounded up, or rounded to the number. So I'm very excited to introduce Loretta. Loretta is going to talk in one point about matching gifts, and I just wanted to say real quickly, for anybody who's not aware what a matching gift is, it just means that a person makes a donation and then a company that they work for will then match. So when Loretta talks about matching gifts, that's what that is. I'm going to go into a lot more details later on about tips for matching gifts, other than the ones that Loretta's going to share, but I just wanted to make sure everybody kind of knew what a matching gift was to start. So Loretta, it's all you.
Hi, thank you. So my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2001. My youngest sister walked the Seattle 3-day in 2005 and called me afterwards and said, "You have to do this with me." And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. And then I lost my mind, and after January, I had this idea that, yeah, I can totally do that. And then I had a panic attack afterwards thinking, I'm pretty sure I can't walk 60 miles. And I know I cannot raise $2,300. There's just no way. That's a lot of money. So I did, and I did. So what I've done with matching is familiarize myself with the companies that people work for and how the matching works in that company. Granted, one of the companies was one that I was employed with at the time, so I was very familiar with it. This year, I'm in a different situation where I am not working for that company any longer. All the fellow employees that I worked with before are working for a brand new company, and I am not working for that company. So I tell you that only to say that I am in the process of educating myself on that company's matching policies and how they work. And what I've done every year and what I intend to do this year and next is when I solicit donations from folks that work for a particular company, I will include in my letter how to get matching for their donation. And a lot of times people are simply uneducated about how that works. So I try to take all the hard parts out for them. So I include a link to their company's matching website. And then I just kind of bullet point down, here's what you do, here's the next step. Then you go to this page, this is what you put in this field. This is my participant ID, it goes in this field. And I would suggest that if you don't have a way to look at that company's policies on a website, then just get with the an employee of that company that you trust and have them walk through it with you so that you're making it very simple for your donors to seek matching for their donations. And that's really, it's really as simple as that. I take a little time up front to educate myself, and then on the back end, I take time to follow up with people to see if they were successful in submitting a matching request. And I've also followed up on the 3-day side with staff from the 3-day to say, hey, I found this person submitted a matching request like 4 months ago. Could you check and see the status? And putting those two items together has really worked well for completing the loop on both the request and then the submittal from Susan G. Komen to that company for a match.
Loretta, I was saying earlier today, I have not incorporated proactively matching gifts like into my fundraising strategy. Like I've received some matching donations, but that's because the person has done it. So I love that that's something that you take upon yourself to really take charge of that information and research it and do all of that work for the donor. Because obviously it makes a huge difference in how much money you're able to raise. Right.
And I did some calculations today before we met, and I averaged the last 10 years, and the matching portion of what you see there on the screen has been on average about 30% of the total. So that's a pretty good, I mean, if you add 30% on what you're already raising, it just snowballs. Yeah. It's incredible. Yeah.
That's great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Loretta. That's super inspiring. And like I said, I think matching gifts is not something, I don't think it's something that everybody takes advantage of because it seems like something that's complicated and hard. So I think you kind of sharing your approach and then Tesha sharing some tips at the end, hopefully we're going to make it a little easier for people. And there's so much more time to fundraise this year. I feel like it's a great time for people to kind of dip their toe in figuring out how to incorporate matching gifts. So Karen, I see your question and that will definitely be addressed in the information that Tesha is going to be sharing in a little bit. So thank you, Loretta.
Thank you.
All right, Jen, tell us about I know you, one of your teammates texted me actually, and she started telling me the story and I was like, okay, we need to have you guys come on and talk about this because your story to me is the most sort of COVID relevant, if you will. You had to make so many changes to a classic idea, but you really had to, change it up for this current situation. So tell us about your experience and how you came to the 3-day also.
Yeah, so my connection to breast cancer, both my grandmothers died from breast cancer. One of my grandmas had inflammatory breast cancer, which is a little bit more rare. And then my other grandma, had the more traditional type of breast cancer. And, our family has been, very affected by cancer as well, which kind of, really made me want to join. My sister has been doing it for 4 years. And, she's so into it, her and her friend that pulled her into it. And, I was just like thinking, well, that's crazy. But I recently relocated back to Minnesota from Florida because of the pandemic. It's time for me to come back home. And I thought, this would be a great thing to do with my family and friends, to really, raise awareness for cancer, how it's affected our family. And one of the things that Team Double B does every year to raise money is a big multifamily garage sale. My sister has a corner lot, so it gets lots of, activity, people just driving by. People love garage sales. But we did a little bit of a different spin on it this year, kind of going into what Katherine was saying about, doing your own kind of 3-day. We did it over a 3-day period as well. My sister and her friend Denise had their previous pink tents, and we figured, hey, let's set them up, let's camp in the front yard. That gives us even more kind of visibility for people driving by. And also because of the pandemic, we missed out on the Minnesota State Fair, which is huge for all of us Minnesotans. And so we figured, well, we can do a garage sale, but we can also do some kind of fun games to, go along with it to raise money. So you can see that we made bra pong. And we made it fun. So we had all different sizes of bras. And it was pretty easy. We just had some bras and a staple gun and some ping pong balls. And, we just gave away stupid prizes. We made, some bags of candy, and some people just, they saw it and they would drive by and just, whoa, like, what is that? It caught so much attention just from that. And, we would have people stopping by, even just giving a donation. Talking about their experience with breast cancer. And we were mask enforcers. There were some people that came through that said, they didn't wear a mask. We had some masks, to say, hey, can you put this on? There were some people that objected. You're going to have that. But, that's how it was. We did tape to keep people 6 feet apart. It was a lot of work, but we managed it. And over the weekend, we made $1,600 between the 4 of us.
That's great.
Yeah, and I had just started in end of July. So my total so far is pretty impressive to me. The fact that I haven't really done a lot, but it came up pretty fast.
That's great. And you said, so there were people who just, like, they were curious because of how you set things up. Like, obviously you made it sort of a catchy, appealing environment. So some people just came and gave donations. They didn't even buy anything.
Yep.
Yeah, it's great.
And people just, you know, it was a good experience just to get people out and about and talking to each other. The other thing that we did as part of this was we did a Facebook live event for a dance-off. So I figured it would be, you know, kind of fun to, so basically what I did is I invited a lot of people on Facebook and I said, you know, you can request a song and I will dance to it.
Wow.
And I made a decent amount of money off that. It was this weekend that really got me up to, you know, the $890. And people loved the dance off. It made a lot of people laugh.
Yeah, I apologize. I didn't include the photo. I think there was a photo in one of the ones you sent me. It looked like it might be from the dance off. I put in the super pandemic pictures here, but
yes.
Jennifer, quick question for you before we move on. I've always been curious about this, like as far as like pricing things for a yard sale, that like where the money is going to charity. Do you like make the prices higher than you normally would, or do you just keep them really at like yard sale low prices and hope that people will kind of appeal to what you're doing and just kick in more?
Yeah, we kept the prices low because it was kind of also a win-win for people. You know, people are going through a hard time right now, you know, so they can go and get a deal. And then people that maybe have a little bit more money to spend might, you know, be rounding up. You know, we'd get a lot of people that say, you know, I don't need my change back or whatever.
Yeah.
So we kept the prices low.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And thank you for sharing that. And I know this year would have been your first time participating in the 3-day. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, I watched them do it in Minneapolis all the time.
Yeah. Well, I hope you've gotten a little bit of a taste for the 3-day community. And, you know, we still have 2 more virtual kickoffs that you can be a part of if you haven't been a part of the first 2. But we are really looking forward to you being able to experience the 3-day for the first time. It's a pretty magical and amazing community, and we're really grateful that you're a part of it. So thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jen. Sue is here. Sue, are you able to come on video and show us your face? I think I've made you the right kind of promotion and all that.
I really hope she's wearing that Care Bear costume.
I know, when I told her about this, she said, oh, I have a Care Bear costume from when I was crew. And she said, I'll send you a photo of me in that. I said, yes, please. That is exactly what I would like to see. Let's see. Let me at least try, see if we can at least unmute you. If we can't get you on video, at least maybe we can hear you. Let's see, Sue, are you there? Well, maybe should we move on? And Sue, if you're able to come off or something, just private chat me. Is that maybe the best way to move forward, Molly? Or? Oh, Sue, I hear you.
Do you hear me?
Yes,
we hear
there
you.
you are.
Okay, good. I'm driving, that's why. I was just actually out visiting my first granddaughter, my only grandchild.
Congratulations.
And my granddaughter. And I'm driving with my husband in the car, who, of course, thinks I'm crazy for doing this. So, but he supports me, and that's all that counts. I have been participating since 2009. When my youngest sister said, hey, there's this 3-day, we did the Mother's Day walk in the Twin Cities. And she said, hey, there's this 3-day, we should sign up. And so I did, and then she didn't. So I walked by myself in Twin Cities in 2009. My sister and my mom came out and cheered me on, and then my sister did sign up in 2010, and we walked in the Twin Cities. And we were joined by my sister down in Dallas. She flew up and walked. Our mom is now a 14-year survivor. Since then, I have had a cousin and my mom's youngest sister, both diagnosed and now are survivors of breast cancer. So we have a history in our family, and now I have a granddaughter, so I have more motivation. And I actually have been walking. I walk every year. I started walking in the Twin Cities, and then I walked down in Dallas in 2011. And then I continued to walk here in the Twin Cities, and in 2013 it was so hot I almost melted. And I was gonna give up the ghost. And one of my friends in Seattle that I met said, well, come out and walk with us. I've got a big team, we'll take care of you. It's called Kindred Spirits. And they were, and it was awesome. When I walked in 2011 in Dallas, I thought, well, I can't miss the party in my own state. So I joined the crew for the first time in 2011. And when I walk in another city, which I started doing in 2014, I also crew in the Twin Cities. And last year was the last year for Twin Cities. So I have now crewed. Last year, actually, I crewed in 5 different cities. I crewed in the Twin Cities, Seattle, Dallas, Michigan, and I can't remember the other place. I participated in 5 events. I walked in San Diego. So I crewed in 4 events last year, and I walked in 1. So I think I've been crewing and walking almost 24 events, maybe 25 events would have been this year, would have been 24 or 25.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see I think you can't see the screen, but with this, by my count, your next year will be your 23rd in Chicago and your 24th in San Diego.
Okay. So yeah, so I'm really crazy. And we're just pulling up in the driveway now, so my husband's going to bail out. I'm going to stay in the car.
Great idea.
He's gonna run.
We're not done with you yet, Sue. Sue, can you tell me a little bit, like, does your fundraising strategy change whether you're crewing or walking? How has that gone?
It doesn't, because I have to raise the money to walk. So my first priority has always been to just get to goal. And some years I do really well, and I'll get to the 3,000 mark. And then once I do that, or at least once I get to the 2,300, and I start I've got a ton of friends that walk and crew. And so once I get to my goal, I have in the past just, if I am doing a training walk and I have a new walker and they're like, I'm having struggles, I'll get home and I'll throw them $20. Or if somebody hands me $20 and I'm already at goal, and I know a crew member got a wife or a husband that's struggling, I'll say, well, I just got $20, give me your link. So I don't know what I'm at for myself for raising money.
You're just at $33,415.
Okay. Well, yeah. I'll try harder.
I think you've done just fine, Sue.
Okay.
It's wildly impressive.
I've done a couple things. Mostly, I've been very lucky. The place that I worked at for 12 years before I was laid off, a couple of years ago, they would give me $250, and there was a little guy in payroll that would always give me the check. And one year he said, well, they just told me to give you whatever I gave you, whatever they did last year, and it was 500, right? And I said, no, it was 250. I mean, I didn't want the little guy to get in trouble. So he cut me a check for 500. And then every year after that, I got 500. So, so that really helps when you have a company that you can go to and say you're doing something, and they usually will give you a bigger dollar amount. So that always was a really good base and a starting for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I have done where I've had a little pink piggy bank, ceramic piggy bank at my desk, and I put a big sign, change for a change. And people would just give me their pocket change after lunch because they'd be walking by. I sold candy bars for $1, and I always seemed to have way more money in I would leave it at the front reception desk, and people would just come up and buy candy bars on their honor system.
Mm-hmm.
So I would always have way more money than I had candy bars for $1, which was nice. And then because I had that sign out there, people wanted to give me more than $1. So then I was able to give them my link. And then they would make a donation. And year after year, I had the same people say to me, "Oh, are you walking again?" And of course I would say yes. And they'd like, "Well, make sure you give me your link." So I had a good base of people, and I kept those people, and I've been adding on. The grocery store my husband delivers bread to, the grocery guy now has given me $60 a year for the last 3 years, and he never gave me anything before.
Mm-hmm.
But he had a friend of his who was diagnosed with breast cancer, and he knows that I do the walk because I always stop in on my way home from walking at the lake or whatever, and I'm always dressed in pink or dressed crazy. And so he's seen me, and he's like, "How far did you walk today?" So, it just kind of gets that conversation going. And then I usually post, if I do a training walk, or if I'm going to do a training walk, or even if I walk by myself, I'll post that I've done a walk. I walked 6 miles tonight. It was dark when I started, and I still kept going, and people would, and then I would post my link, and I would get, a $20, a $30 donation. So
Yeah, Sue, what I really like about your approach is it sounds like you're always doing something to actively fundraise. And I think what's great is like you have some ideas that generate some, probably some sizable donations, but you also have ways in which people can donate on a small scale as well. And I like how you incorporate it into work training as well. I think that it's great. I know you can't see kind of the chat, but someone had said like, love all these ideas, like, and it is like, it's a great illustration that a lot of little things add up to make a really big difference, which again, you can see just based on your impressive lifetime fundraising for the 3-day as well. So
yeah, and it really does add up, and you never know. I just started a new job, and there's another worker that's also on a contract for hire. I'm a contract for hire, and I wore on Fridays. Traditionally, I've always worn one of my finishing shirts that you get for finishing every Friday.
Yep, your victory shirt.
And last week I wore my finisher shirt on Friday, and she said, "Oh, do you do the 3-day?" And I said, "Yep." And I told her, my mom's a survivor, and she said, "Well, I have a friend who has MS, but I would like to make a donation to you, so send me your link." So you never know. And she also had a distant friend that she doesn't see very often, that she graduated from college with, that had breast cancer. So you never know who has a connection.
Exactly.
And
yeah,
just mentioning it may trigger somebody to say, "Oh, my neighbor down the street, or my 3rd grade daughter's teacher just got diagnosed, and I want to make a donation." You never know somebody's story.
Yep.
And I never say, "Well, just give me $20, or just give me, you got a $5, just give me a $5. I don't care how much." I always just say, "Here's my link, please make a donation." And I did that to my aunt last year, and she gave me $585.
Wow.
Why $585? I don't know. But that's what she did, and I had never gotten that big of a donation from her before. She has given me $250 a couple of years, $100, And for some reason last year, she gave me $585. So I don't know why. I just said thank you. And,
Exactly.
you know, you never know. Somebody might give you $100 and you don't know why. I did get, I was on a walk and I was a training walk leader. And I had a lady walk up to me and ask me for my address. And I gave her my address, and I actually got one of those blank cards on the inside with a picture of a bird on the outside. I'll never forget the card, with a $50 bill in it. And I didn't know her, but she saw me out walking, and I had my crazy pants on. I have a pair of pink camo pants, and I was training for the 3-day, and I was wearing my tutu skirt, and I was walking by myself in downtown Crystal, and I had my head bobbers on, and it was like a 3-day event, and I was out walking, and she asked me for my address, and I don't even know her. So you just never know what crazy thing you do or what person you run into that will give you money. And I still have the card. I still remember the blank card inside, and it just said thank you, and there was a $50 bill, and it still makes me tear up when I remember her. So you never know someone's story, and you never know how much they're going to be willing to give. You just have to put it out there and let them be generous with what they can do.
That's a sweet note to end on. Thank you so much, Sue, for sharing all of those little stories of how you're fundraising and how much it makes a difference and adds up. In the interest of time, we're going to go ahead and keep this truck moving. So Tasha, you can go ahead and advance to the next slide, but I do want to say thank you so much to our 4 speakers who have shared. Please make sure that you stay on to the end just in case we get any questions that may be directed specifically at you. But thank you so much for what you're doing. We'd like to see you next year, and we're so appreciative for you sharing your stories here today. So fundraising reminders. So this is my little pitch of, hey, I totally understand we're in a pandemic. I understand you need to kind of read the room in terms of where people are at in your life of who you reach out to for fundraising. But I am here to tell you that the basics of fundraising still apply, which means you need to ask. You're not going to get a donation if you don't ask for one. And again, I understand that we are in special times. There may be some people in your life who may be between jobs. It's not our job to make assumptions. If you want to go to the next one, Tasha. It's not our job to make assumptions about what people can and can't do. And I think for me, some of the most touching donations that I've received have been from the people who I would assume couldn't make a donation and has still prioritized it because it was something that was important to them. So don't make the decision for your donor. And that also leads us into being willing to step outside of your comfort zone. Fundraising is uncomfortable. Some of us are more comfortable with it than others, but there's an element of it being uncomfortable for all of us. And I think you just need to be willing to step outside of your comfort zone and remember that you're not asking someone for money for you. Following up is my single most important fundraising tip. Most money is going to be left on the table if you don't take the time to follow up with people. When I do my fundraising, I ask 5 times, and a no is not a no until you have been told no. And the worst thing someone can do is say no to you. You'll be fine. And I really think acknowledging and thanking your donor right away, and it's sort of awkward obviously right now because the events aren't happening until next year. And so it's not like you can send, in a couple of months, a recap of how the event was. So you want to make sure that you acknowledge and thank the donation right away, whether you do that one-on-one or via your Facebook fundraiser on Facebook, or, I do a lot of different things because I find that if I thank someone one-on-one and then do something followed up on Facebook, it just generates more interest because people are like, I want to get a public thank you. So make sure that you do that right away. You never want to make a donor come and ask you if they've received your donation. So sorry to go through those super quickly, but we want to keep things moving. So Tasha, top 6 tips for matching gifts. Hit it.
You got it. So matching gifts, the number one tip, Select the correct organization. Nothing slows down this matching gifts process like picking the wrong part of Komen. So make sure that when your donors are doing their matches, make sure that they, whenever possible, pick Susan G. Komen 3-day, not a local affiliate, not corporate headquarters. And we just changed the address. So the address to which all the matching gifts forms and payments and all of that is now the same as the P.O. box where you would mail checks. We're going to talk in a minute about why you don't want to mail checks, but if you were going to mail a check, this is the P.O. box you would mail it to. It's the same one where matching gift stuff can now go. If your donor sees an entry in their matching gift system that says Susan G. Komen 3-day, but it has the previous address, which was Jackson Boulevard in Chicago, ask them to ask their company to update it in their system to this new P.O. box, because their matching gifts administrator will have the ability to do that. So number one, make sure it's the right organization. Number two, use this checkbox on the online donation form. Most people don't even see it. They just scroll right past it, although it does make you pick something. But putting that first option there that I would like more information about how to apply, and then entering in their company name in that employer name box, puts this match on our radar so that we know, hey, this person who made this donation is also planning on making a match. And when the match comes in, it's super, super easy for us to be able to match it up, no pun intended, and apply it to the right person, to the right participant. Number three, make sure that your donor puts your information on the match request, because we do get money from companies, but we don't know who it's supposed to go to. So wherever they can on that match, whether there are specific fields that ask for this information, or if there's just a notes field, or wherever they can, have them put your name, your participant ID, and your event ID. And if you don't know those, they are located at the top of your personal donation form. They're also in your participant center if you need that. But you'll see this form right here. It says Walker Coach. Normally that would be your name. That's my fake account. But you see up on the upper right there, that participant ID number and the event ID number. That helps us match it up. Number four is a really big one. Allow ample processing time. Matches take a long time. Some of them take up to 10 weeks. The reason is that some companies use a third party to process their matches. So the company basically hires another company to run their matching gifts program. And I will tell you, if your company, if the company who's doing the match uses a third party called Benevity or Your Cause, either one of those, they have this payout schedule that if you've never heard of it, you might be a little surprised. So the way they pay out is that payment comes in 45 days after the month in which the donation or match request was made. So that means if somebody did a donation to you today, it's October 15th, we would not see that money until the middle of December, because it's 45 days after the first of the month, after the month when the donation's made. And by the way, if the donation was made October 2nd, it's still 45 days from November 1st. So we're still looking at the middle of December. So I say that, A, so that you can know to be patient, and B, so that you can start planning early. You don't want to submit a match a week before your event if you have to have that money to be able to walk, because getting it through the system that quickly is very unlikely. So definitely plan ahead and definitely be patient. Number five, you want to keep copies of all the emails involved in this process. So if you have a donor who's making a match, you can have them just forward you the emails. That might be easiest. Just keep a folder, keep all the emails, because what's going to happen is if you contact us to ask about a match, we're going to ask you for that email, first of all. And sometimes when I get the email, I can immediately see, oh, well, there hasn't been enough time, or, oh, they picked the Boston affiliate. They didn't pick the 3-day. And I can immediately tell us how to fix it. But if I can't, and I have to escalate it to the matching gifts department, they are going to ask me for that email. So we definitely need to make sure that we have that. And then the last one is number 6, which is use the matching gift search tool Some people have asked about this one. I saw a couple messages in the chat about it. The question was, how do you know whether or not a company can do a match for you? So if you go to this website, the 3day.org/matching, there's a search box at the bottom, and you can put in all or part of a company name, and then you'll get all the information that we have about their matching procedures. So it will show you everything from the minimum amount that they will match. You know, this Bank of America, they won't match a $10 donation, but they'll match a $24 donation all the way up to $5,000. They'll tell you things like the gift ratio, which in this case, 1-to-1 means you give $1, they give $1. There are companies out there, I've seen as high as 3-to-1, by the way. So there are companies where if the employee donates $100, the company will kick in another $300. So this is really great information for you when you're starting to do that research. Like Loretta was talking about, do your research on the front end, you know, learn about these companies. Even if, so you can use it two ways. You can use it one, if somebody says, what does my company do? Or, you know, I put in this match, should we see it by now? You'll be able to see and hear their timelines, the contact information for their company, all of that stuff. But you can also use it proactively and just look and see, look at major companies. So, and then go to social media and say, hey, who do I know that works for Starbucks or Home Depot or Bank of America? Because they'll match. And especially right now, when we're in the middle of a pandemic, it can really make a big difference. If somebody can give you $50, that might turn into $100. It helps them increase their personal impact just by going to their company. You know, people, I usually say matching is basically free money. So don't leave it out there on the table. So those are my top 6 gifts or matching gift tips to make sure that you get it in as smoothly as possible. And Molly, I think, are you going to talk about fundraising rewards? I think You're muted. There you are.
I sure will. Yeah, just a reminder, you know, we timed this with the first fundraising reward deadline that's going to be approaching here in just a couple of weeks. So if you raise $1,500 by October 31st, you will get this hat. And if you raise $2,000 by December 31st, you will get one of these t-shirts. A couple of things that I want to say is we will take your cumulative fundraising amount. So if you're doing multiple events, it will count if it's spread across the different accounts. Number one. Number two, if you already raised this money, earned it, was in your account before we announced these, you're in, so you're good. And 3, if you are doing more than one event, you only get one of these things. You can earn one hat and one shirt, but if you're doing multiple events and have enough, you just get one, people. That's how that works.
Yep. No 4 hats, sorry.
Exactly. Tasha's about fundraising tools, and then we will stay on to answer some questions, but we recognize if people need to get off at the top of the hour, please feel free, but we will stay on to address some questions.
Absolutely. So fundraising tools, 6 great ones right here. First one being us. So you have learned a little bit more now about me and about Molly. You know, I've walked 8 times. You know, Molly is a phenomenal fundraiser. We know what has worked for us. We know what has worked for a lot of other participants, and we know what tools are out there that you might not be aware of to be able to help you with your fundraising. So never hesitate to pick up the phone or send us an email and ask. We're here for you. We're here for brainstorming, all of those things. Your participant center, if you haven't been in there in a while, there are a few new things in there. We still have all of those great printables, things that you can print out for, you know, putting on your pink piggy bank at work, or putting, you know, a business card in your pocket when you go out walking, things like that. We have the sample emails in there, the social media posts. We also have not things that we have written, but things that we have collected, like letters that other 3-day participants have sent us that have worked for them. And we've put those out there to share those with everybody. And most recently, we've added some messaging about COVID-19. So specifically sort of how to approach and some language that might feel more comfortable in dealing with making asks these days. Mobile check deposit, 2 words on mobile check deposit, game changer. Mobile check deposit is awesome. Basically, you just take a picture of the check and it posts to your account within minutes. So you don't have to worry about all those things you have to worry about in the past, right? You had to worry about an envelope, a stamp, printing a donation form, filling out the donation form, whether or not the Postal Service was going to lose it, how long it was going to take, et cetera, et cetera. You don't have to do any of that. You take the check, you take a picture of it, you just get it in our fundraising app, which is our free app. Just download the app. You take a photo of it, you confirm the details, make sure that everything's spelled correctly, and then post it. It's so easy and so great. It's probably, I would say, my favorite tool we've announced in the last 10 years.
We have a longtime participant who just emailed in last week and said that it's the best thing that we've done. I think she also used the like best thing since sliced bread analogy.
She did. Yeah.
So I do encourage everyone to please go out and try it. If you get a donation that comes to you via check made out to the 3-day, check this out. It's a really great tool and it goes in to your account right away.
It's fantastic.
You make the
Facebook
choice to come in 3-day. I'm breaking my own rules and answering a question that just came in.
Oh, it's Facebook fundraisers. Probably about 2 years, almost 2 years. We've had Facebook fundraiser now. The biggest thing to know about Facebook fundraiser, 2 or 3 main points. One, it's allowing us to raise so much money. It's great. We had at one point, Molly, I know it's probably changed with the pandemic, but we were looking, it was like $500 per person more that was being raised because of Facebook fundraisers. That might not be an exact figure, but it was something very close.
I know Steph is on and she knows the correct figure. I don't know if it was 500 or 750 on average is what people raise more, but I'm sure she'll hit it was over 700. Okay.
There we go. All right.
So on average, people raise about $700 more when they add Facebook fundraiser to their strategy.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the biggest thing I would say, the biggest pitfall that people run into with a Facebook fundraiser is they don't set it up properly. So you always want to make sure you start your Facebook fundraiser from your participant center. Don't start it on Facebook. If you start it on Facebook, you're starting it for Komen headquarters, and then we can get the money moved over, but it's a bit of a process. So just go to your participant center. It will be like one of the very first things that you see is whether or not you want to start a Facebook fundraiser. It is literally one click. You click on it and your Facebook fundraiser is started. The next thing you need to know about it is you need to invite people to it. Facebook has really funky algorithms on how they show people what you post. So if you don't invite them, there's a very good chance that they won't see it in the newsfeed and they won't even know about it. So there is an invite button in there. Invite every single person you know, because as we've talked about already, you never know what somebody's connection is. So the only downside I would think to Facebook fundraisers is there is no place on a Facebook fundraiser donation for somebody to indicate that they're going to apply for a matching gift. So it doesn't go on our radar like it does with the online donation form. So just something to know, if you know ahead of time somebody's going to be applying for a match, maybe just ask them to do it directly on your 3-day website. But again, if they make the match, we'll figure it out. Next resource, your fellow participants. I think we've proven that tonight, that our community is amazing. There are so many ideas out there, little tiny ones, huge ones, everything in between. You can find people through your teams. You can find people in our new Facebook city-specific groups. So please go and join those groups if you haven't. Just talk to people and find out what is working for you. What have you been doing? Especially if you see somebody who's got a Facebook fundraiser, you know, they raised $5,000, send them a private message. Say, hey, how did you raise $5,000? Like, what did you do? I'm looking for some help. You will find that this community is big on sharing. We like to help each other. So definitely that. And then the very last one is, right now, especially, there is no shortage of advice on the internet. Companies and nonprofits and everybody are being so much more collaborative than ever because everybody's dealing with the same world situation right now. There are free webinars that companies are hosting. You can just do Google searches on, you know, fundraising ideas or fundraising in a pandemic, and you'll get all kinds of ideas. There are white papers out there. So spend a little time, do some research on the internet. There's a lot of great information out there these days. Molly, anything you want to add on any of those?
No, you hit it all. Yeah.
All right.
Before we go into the questions part, I do just want to say thank you to our entire community. I said this at the beginning, but it really has been so inspiring to see the ways in which people are still continuing to fundraise and advocate for Susan G. Komen and support this event. And we've been so inspired by the ways in which people are participating on their own. So thank you very much. We know that it is an unusual time, but we look to this community for so much inspiration and motivation, and there is no shortage of that right now. So if anybody has any questions, if you want to go ahead and put that into the chat, and we will take a few minutes to answer some questions. I will say one of the questions we got was, who do you make the checks out to? And the checks are made out to the Susan G. Komen 3-Day. And I also wanted to share, Christina shared a tip that she wanted to pass along to everyone was to share your story of why you're doing this. People will respond. I have completed 3 days. San Diego 2021 will be my 4th. I lost a friend who was a huge supporter of the 3-Day as she was a survivor previously. She lost her battle on October 8th, 2020. I joined that night in her honor, posted it on Facebook. I've raised $713 so far in less than a week. Christina, first of all, I'm so sad to hear about your friend. I'm glad that the 3-Day is inspiring you yet again. And thank you for sharing that. And you're right, it's really important to share your specific reason of why you're doing this. One of the things that I love about this event is the peer-to-peer fundraising aspect of it, because peer-to-peer fundraising gives you an opportunity to see how much you matter to the people in your life. People are donating to you, they're donating first and foremost because you asked, but it's because they love you and they want to support something that's important to you. So make sure you give them the opportunity to do just that. Karen asked, I'm walking with some young adults this year. I would like to know what the definition of young adults, because I feel like my definition of that might be different than yours. 20s. Okay, perfect. And they're having some issues fundraising. So first and foremost, I think that everybody needs to know kind of what the basics of fundraising are. So Karen, I think being able to kind of go through those, like, you're not going to get money if you don't ask for it. This is also a numbers game. So the more people you ask, the more money you're going to get, and the more people you can follow up with. And so they need to know to just really think of and consider every single person who they know. And they need to make sure that they're capitalizing on events that they can do. Steph just chimed in, car washes, dog walking, find something that they can charge for, ask their parents, friends to pledge for miles walked. All of those are great ideas. And again, just making sure that they're really comfortable telling their story of why they're doing it. I think it's really compelling that someone in their 20s wants to do the Susan G. Komen 3-Day. It is not an easy event. And I think that there are a lot of ways in which they can utilize social media to do their fundraising as well. I like to say that you're only limited by your imagination and the law. So there's a lot of different things that people can do. And I know it's, you know, we're limited, and especially for a younger crowd, like people used to be able to do things like be a guest bartender, like that would have been something good for that audience. So it depends where they live, if bars are open or not. But it's going to be coming down first and foremost to asking. But as Steph said, there's really just a lot of variety of things that they can do. Sue had also said, ask for a donation for their birthday instead of a gift. That's great to do. Also, if they're fundraising, and this is just good advice for anyone generally, if you're fundraising for a specific reason, right? So you know, like I had said, I participated in the 3-Day because my mom is she's a 20-year breast cancer survivor, 21 this year. She was diagnosed in 1999. So there's always like a play on the numbers that people can use. So whether you say this Friday, I'm asking for donations in the amount of 1999, which is the year my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer, or my sister participates in the 3-Day because she lost 2 friends at the age of 43 to breast cancer. And so that was the amount that she asked for donations from. I also do this crazy thing where I tell people that I'm inviting them to be part of my $100 club, and that I've only reached out to 23 people, hoping that they will want to be part of my $2,300 club. There is no club. I'm just asking them to make a $100 donation, but I make it seem exclusive. So someone else one of the more creative fundraising ideas that I've seen is a 3-day participant from Michigan who's doing Chicago started reading stories on Facebook Live to her audience. And I cannot tell you the name of the book because it's not family friendly. It's not like 50 Shades of Grey or anything like that, but it was like an adult children's book. And she was doing that for donations. And so people do a lot of different things. So.
Molly, I'm going to go back. I got a chance to catch up on some of the chat. There was a question about matching. I want to make sure we get in. Michelle asked about who does she give the information to contact the matching company for changes and things. So that they should have in their system, they should have the information. If they need somebody's direct email address, they're welcome to call the 800 number and we can give them the exact email address that they need to contact or the phone number. But it made me also think, and it was in my notes and I just skimmed right past it because I was worried about time. If you are looking in that search tool and you don't see a company, that doesn't necessarily mean that the company won't match donations. It just means that we don't know about them. So ask your donor, would they ask somebody in their HR or payroll department if that company does matching gifts, if they have a program, or if it's a small company, maybe they don't have a program, but they just want to support their employee and they're willing to donate. So that's a couple of things I wanted to mention on there. Hi, Sue. I saw your face for 2 seconds there. Let's see. Anything else? That was the main one I wanted to hit with that. Halloween pet costume contest. I like it. She's going to do a donation. If for every donation, you get a vote. Jen's going to do that. That's great.
Alicia says telling your story is definitely key, even if it's just supporting someone who has been walking for a while. And Glenn said, hi, Glenn. Glenn, I purchased a website, walkingwithglenn.com on GoDaddy, about $20, then linked the website to directly go to my donation page. I then give pink bracelets to potential donors as a reminder. So again, I hope that this just illustrates, again, like there's so many different ways in which you can do the fundraising, and we have such a long, runway with the events not taking place until 2021. So there's a lot of different ways to try different things. And, you know, as I said, if matching gifts is not part of your strategy, it should be something that you incorporate into your donation strategy for the upcoming year. It's something I was saying, I've never done that, but I think it's, you know, asking people when they make a donation to you, what, if you don't know what company they work for, ask them, you know, thank them for the donation, then let them know that they have the ability to potentially, you know, double, triple, quadruple their impact if they happen to work for a company that offers a match. So just make sure that you take that time to ask that question. Tasha, anything else before we wrap up?
No, I don't. I think I've hit everything on my notes and everything that all of this great conversation keeps sparking. It's, you know, it's amazing when we all come together, how, you know, little things, somebody will say one thing and I'll think, oh yeah, that's just like, and then I sort of go off on another thing. I will say with the young fundraising question, I have done that. So the first time my cousin walked with me, she was 17. She had just graduated from high school, and it was a bit of a challenge. We were lucky in that it was many years ago and we were able to do events. But we also we lived in a place that allowed online raffles, and we went door to door to businesses, and I made her go in and do the ask. I did the first 2, and then I said, after that, it's you. And she went in and asked if she could have an item or a gift card and explained why, and left her donation form and all that. And we collected all kinds of things, and we were able to do, you know, however many people donate to this, we'll donate this, and get the prizes out to people. And we raised a lot of money that way. And also at a Christmas craft show that we did, we just had a donation table there. So again, it's going to be a little harder for some of those kinds of things these days, but there are always ways around it. So there are always ways to fundraise. So yeah. And just from me also a huge thank you. Thank you, as Molly said, to the community. Thank you so much to the 4 ladies who shared tonight. Thank you, Molly. I think this has just been a really great sharing experience. I hope a lot of people learned a lot of things tonight, so I got excited.
Exactly. Thank you, everyone. We are going to stop the recording and end this. If you are looking for